So you have like a very defined sound when it comes to your original. So how do you actually define your own music? Because like there's no, I mean, maybe it's I don't know enough, but then like it to me, it's like when I try to define the music you write, like which genre does it fall into? I'm like, okay, that's Jakub. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
say where does it fit in, you know?
I guess that's good. I'll treat it as a compliment, I guess. Um, I don't know. It's just the more music I make, the more I realize that it's mostly about me being interested in the process again. So that's why it's hard for me to do the same thing over and over again. It's important to just keep myself entertained and just look for new stuff. And my latest releases were probably in this style, just because I was interested in searching for that kind of hopeful, nostalgic feeling in music, and this kind of production vibe that I was going for was interesting to me. So, and it might change, next time. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah, I get what you mean though, but so in some word and in other words, then you're kind of doing whatever inspires you at that particular moment then.
yeah, because I feel like it's still we are all different, and we are just projections of our own environments and our own experiences. So it will hopefully sound still like me at some point, even if I'll change the production, the colors or whatever, it will still be me at some point. At least I believe it. So therefore, I'm not that afraid to just look for new things. Yeah, because in the end, it's still hopefully will come from the same source.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you're doing a great job so far. Like, I mean, I really enjoy, uh, your music conceptually and also the limits you try to push, your art towards, like, your music videos, like how you go
Mm.
around with that, tape, which is kind
Yeah,
of rare because that's kind of unique because that's not really your era there. Because when you grow, I'm sure it was already at least
actually,
CDs,
I think I was last to experience cassette. Like
Really?
my very first albums, like Iron Maiden albums, and I think I had. Do you know the band called Tiamat? Like a golf, like it's some scary '90s metal shit. But
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, I remember having the Walkman and cassette, so it's I kind of experienced that at some point. But yeah,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
it's just
Yeah.
it's just nostalgic stuff, man. The things that we necessarily didn't experience, but we have this attachment because of the culture or whatever that is, and yeah, and I also love that quality, that audio quality of vinyl and cassette, something that's kind of imperfect, something that's kind of woofy, and
Mm,
yeah, it's
yeah.
really cool.
I think that suits your sound very much, especially if you're all. Yeah, I mean, at the moment you're looking for that nostalgic kind of
Mm,
hipster-ish kind of vibe,
okay.
which really suits. Yeah, I think all that makes a lot of sense, based on the music you write and the music videos you produce. So that kind of fits together very well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's I'm still it's still work in progress, but I really like to experience the really cohesive vision of the artist, whether it's where the music, the visual content is really like from one place you can feel like, oh, this guy knows it, like it's really so. I'm striving for that very much.
Oh, yeah, I think you're doing that really successfully. So,
Thank you.
congratulations on all that hard work. Okay, so then since we're talking about, your original, so I wanted to ask, when it comes to songwriting, composing songs,
Yeah.
where do you start? And, do you always have like, I mean, you mentioned that you don't like to, you don't go through the same process all the time,
Mhm.
but could you roughly break down how, you start when you write songs? Like,
Mhm.
at where do you
Yeah.
start?
I mean, I think it's important for me to just do it pretty much, maybe not every time differently, but as much different as possible, because I've noticed that if I try to stick to one formula that maybe worked previously, it probably won't work next time. So, like for example, with the EPs and the last album, I was really focused into the production side of things. So, a lot of songs actually started from um, just tweaking the sounds and just like messing around with some samples and trying to go somewhere from there, while previously a few years back I was more into like trying to demo the skeleton of the song first and have a rough drawing of the whole picture. um, and then I moved into the detail. Well, this time was more like I was just producing, and I was just trying to like see where it's gonna take me. Yeah. So, but in terms of actually how I actually start the song, it's different. Like sometimes it will start from the guitar, and sometimes it just starts from going through a library of drum loops that might inspire me, and then I just chop it and play with it, and it might inspire the guitar riff, or sometimes I think about the actual thing that I maybe want to say through the song and start with the lyric, and that might dictate like the emotional the frame of the song. Let's say it's just trying to be different each time, and allowing that thing to take me and go with it.
Okay.
Which is
So
difficult because most of the time I really try to like have a perfect formula, but it never works. You have to kind of allow yourself to just go with the flow, and yeah.
yeah, that's kind of true. I think there are two different camps when it comes to musicians writing music.
Mm.
The first one being, those people who have like a very structured way of doing things, and then there's the other camp, which, like you say, it's like more going with the flow, see what
Yeah.
happens, and then do what feels right, and then, whatever feels right is the thing to do.
Yeah,
And
it's difficult because I think like both of these things are great, but it's more of a matter of like sometimes you're zooming in really closely and trying to go to the detail, and when it stops in being inspiring, you kind of zooming out to just see the whole picture, and it's like this constant process of like getting closer to the detail and just detaching yourself from it. And it's like, yeah, pretty much how science works, I think. Like zooming
zooming in and
in
out.
and just zooming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So then, when it comes to writing songs, then at what point do you think a song, I mean, what makes you say that a song is complete and good to go to the public?
Um, because of the deadline most of the time. But I think I know where, like, when the song is the closest to its completion. Like it's probably the time where I feel um, um like nothing bothers me anymore in that track. That's the moment where nothing is just annoying anymore. Obviously where the mix is good for me, where it sounds good, where when the production is good, and yeah. So yeah, pretty much it don't happen. It does not happen with each track, but some tracks are like that when I know like, okay, this is I'm afraid to touch it anymore because I'm afraid that I can mess it up. So I'll just leave it. But the rest of the tracks where I'm deadline. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's always some songs where we know there's nothing more we can do, and I think more importantly, like you said, there's nothing in that particular song that bothers us, because sometimes it's just that feeling where something is missing or something is done
Mm.
too much, and then you tend to tweak that a bit. And yeah, I do get what you mean when you say like you don't want to touch it anymore, because if you touch
Yeah.
it more, you're gonna mess up the whole thing. So you would rather leave it as
Yeah.
it is.
It's kind of difficult to know when you should tell yourself to stop tweaking things, because sometimes you have this feeling like, oh no, I know it's gonna be worth to spend another 2 weeks on this track because I can feel this potential of this song, but it's not there yet. but sometimes you can just make it worse, and it's really difficult to know when to stop tweaking shit.
Yeah, that's true. It's a never-ending process if we don't stop ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. But
Okay.
it's exciting. I love, the thing I love about it is the fact that you can't really learn how to do it. It's pretty much different each time, and something is testing you all the time.
That's true.
Testing
That's
your
true.
patience and your will to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. It's like a new adventure every single time, and it's
Yeah.
like you never know what to expect, what's going to come out of it, and your first riff for the song may not even be in the song
Oh
at the
yeah,
end of
yeah,
the
yeah.
day. It's like,
That's the great thing. I think I kind of learned maybe over the time that it's, the things that are starting the song might not really end up there anymore. There might be like a just starting point that you might destroy later on just to move on some. So it's really important just to not get too much attachment to the ideas, which is really difficult.
yeah, that's very true. You'd be like thinking, oh, I spent this much time on this riff, and then it developed the whole song, and then do I really want to throw it away? It's always that dilemma.
Yeah.
And at some point you gotta say like, oh, for the sake of the song, yeah, this has to go.
Oh yeah. It's always it's got to be for the sake of the song. At least for me, like the song is the ultimate growl.
Yeah, yeah, it is always the priority. I think the song.
Yeah.
It's not about the riff. It's about the composition as the whole.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I mean, I don't think there's anything in your music that bothers anyone. So I think you put out like really good
I mean,
tunes there.
yeah, it's just probably me that can know that because I'm spending the time making this, but I'm really how to say it, occupied by the idea of minimalism in
Mhm.
terms of like just to make sure that everything that's in that song is something that is really needed, nothing more, no more kind of things that are there to just, I don't know, do whatever, like the minimal set of parts that are just completing the song in a beautiful way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this is really difficult.
yeah. I think so too, and that's actually more difficult than saturating a song with like more instruments, more effects, more everything
Yeah.
else, and it's just like that theory. I mean, that saying where it's harder to play slow than to play fast.
Mm.
So, when you play slow and when everything's minimal and naked, everything is clear.
Yeah,
So,
but it usually even sounds better when you have, when you don't have like 100 tracks in a session,
yeah,
but you just have these core ideas, these core parts that are there, and they're breathing within their own space, and
yeah,
nothing is masking itself. It immediately start to sound better.
yeah, that's very true. Less is more.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. In most cases, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then, like,
Unless
as
you're
a
Ingvi and
more is more. How can less be more?
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, he's hilarious though. Yeah. So like, as a musician yourself, how do you balance your time between writing and practicing and obviously learning new stuff? Do you have
Mhm.
like a routine, or you don't have like a fixed routine where you make sure that you progress technically but at the same time still spend time on composition?
Yeah. I it depends. Like it changes over the years. Like for example, in October, then I went for a little. Supposed to be touring this year, but of course, like do the thing that happened. What else can I do? I can just try to write more stuff, and I kind of was just like doing it a little bit for the last half of the year, I guess. But right now, I kind of feel like it's a good time to have a routine or start because I'm just going a little bit crazy. I feel like something's missing. So yeah, it's just like it's a combination of both. I right now I think like I'm just trying to like just write for at least a few hours a day, and I tried to come back to improvisation because I kind of stopped that for years because I was really into like writing music and production, but now I feel like I really want to get back to that. So I try to like maybe an hour a day or every second day, just in the evening, just to jam to like some of my favorite tracks, just without any idea of recording music, just playing for myself. Because that's something that I was doing when I started playing the guitar for years, and I kind of tried to recreate that feeling, just to enjoy playing for yourself. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think it's that freedom of just jamming with no fixed format that sometimes works best as well.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege to speak to Mark Holcomb. So then he was like, yeah, that often works best for him rather than sitting down in front of a computer, with a DAW open and then saying, okay, I have to try to write something now. And then that rarely happens, in a good way, So often more of the beautiful ideas come from those random doodles and, like you said, just jamming freely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, it's something that was always really interesting for me. Is one is that balance between like pushing yourself to make music or just waiting for that moment to happen. It's like somewhere in between. Like you obviously don't want to push yourself too hard because you're gonna hate making music. But if you're just gonna do other things all the time, you might not have these ideas. Just kind of have to create the environment to catch on these ideas, I guess. So that's why I try to like right now just to have that little routine of like spending at least few hours every day just to write, even if it's not happening. At least I feel like, okay, I tried.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, speaking of Mark, I was actually at the show when you guys played with Periphery.
Yeah.
Mark wasn't there, but then it was still like a really good show, and but it was kind of unfortunate in the sense that you were standing the other side because you were like on the if you're standing on the stage, you were on the left side, and then I was like on the other far end. But it was still a really cool gig, especially when you guys also featured in one of the songs in place of Mark's solo. But that was a really unique gig, wasn't it? It was really nice.
That was surreal, man. I was really trying not to act like a fanboy during the whole because like obviously for me Periphery is like a dream theater or like these kind of bands. So the fact that we could just shred during their set was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was really entertaining. That was like a nice touch. Obviously, your set with like Pliny was like great as well.
Yeah.
And then but then being able to see you guys jam with Periphery was like really really awesome as well.
Oh, which gig was that?
London. I went to London.
Ah, shit, that was the biggest one. Yeah,
And that was the last one as well, wasn't it?
That was the last one and the pretty big one. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was crazy that gig, and even during Periphery set, people were like marching their way through, and I was in front, and I was like, trying to keep my place. It was so difficult. It was like this crazy gig, and then and obviously a lot of people went there to see yourself and also Pliny as well. So there was like actually this huge crowd there. For once, to also see the supporting band and to also see the main band. It was so cool. It was one of those gigs that I really, really enjoyed, and it was
that was
nice.
A pretty big tour. Like I'm sure like a lot of people also wanted to see Pliny, and even the London gig was the gig where there was like nearly 3,000 people or something. Like that was crazy.
It was maxed out. It was seriously maxed out, and like it was so nice. It was such a cool gig. I kind of miss that kind of feeling, and it's kind of sad not knowing when the next gig will be.
Yeah, man. You know what I miss? I miss festivals. I miss camping, and I miss partying for 3 days. Yeah. Like especially now it's July, and this is always a month where we just went with friends for like
party time.
Usually like alternative or electronic music festivals, which is like crazy good. So yeah, that sucks. You think it's gonna be back at some point, like back to normal?
I was just talking to some of the guys at Eluveti, and then I had this concern that gigs may never happen again, because it seems like every time a country reopens, the second wave hits again, and then they
Yeah.
go into lockdown, and then things get better, they open again, and then they get hit again, and then it's kind of like this never-ending cycle. But I try not to think about it too much because, like, obviously,
It's a rabbit hole. Yeah.
yeah, it's a rabbit hole. You keep going deeper, and then it gets darker and darker. So, yeah, but so fingers crossed, things actually get better eventually. Hopefully, I think having any gigs this year is still very optimistic. So I think probably next year will probably be the soonest we will actually see any gigs or festivals happen because, yeah, but I do also think there will be changes to guidelines when it comes to gigs. I don't think it will be like before, especially with all these social distancing measures in place, so it's going to be different, but I'm sure the human race will somehow find a way to cope with this, and then it eventually is going to be like the new normal, and then it's kind of like I keep telling people we kind of fortunate in a sense. I mean, it's unfortunate that this happened, but then it's fortunate for us in a way that we kind of get the opportunity to live in like two different eras. Like, one's like in the past, pre-corona, and then like one is like post-corona, and then those lives, like, the lifestyles between these two different eras are like very, very different. So it's kind of surreal in some sense. It's kind of cool, but I just can't wait for the new normal to kick in, so then we kind of know what the fuck we're supposed to do, because everyone just doesn't know what to do, and how things are going to be.
Our generation is pretty lucky in that sense because we also remember. How old are you?
I think I'm probably 5-6 years elder. I'm 32 this year.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both kind of remember the times pre-internet times, right? And we kind of experienced these both sides, which is also pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. Pre-internet is nice, especially when it was like dial, the dial-up time when it wasn't broadband yet. When you had to connect to the internet every single time you wanted to log on, and then speed was just terrible, and then broadband came in, and then it was like, oh, that's like heaven.
Yeah, I mean, I was living in a really small village, so like the internet times just came there like around, like where when it was actually possible to get the internet, it was like around maybe around 2007 or something. Yeah, it was really late. So yeah, maybe I'm mistaken, but something like that. At least I didn't have the internet until I was like 15 or 16. 15 maybe, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
I guess that's kind of, I think that one way or another kind of shaped who you are as a musician as well. That's why I think maybe you kind of get those ideas to go back to those very basic
because you didn't have that many distractions, and that was beautiful. Like right now my attention span is like 10 times shorter. I think we all are suffering from that at some point, and yeah, that these times, pre-internet times, were definitely the times where you could focus more.
Yeah, and I think you make a very good point there that I think not only you but a lot of us, our attention span has really shortened by a lot, and then I think you as a content creator yourself, you would know, because obviously sometimes when you study the insights of your views and viewer audience, you can actually see that the actual duration they spend on your clips. Sometimes I think it's the main issue is that it's so convenient to skip right now. Commercials, we can skip them. Songs, we can skip them. A lot of people just skip through songs to see if they're like good parts of the song. If not, then they just just quit listening to
they just
song.
give up. They're all the time looking for the new thing,
Yeah, so then it's like moving on to the next one in just a matter of seconds. But back then in the past, where you have cassettes, I mean, we actually had the patience to listen to every single song, every single detail. We knew exactly what song was going to come after the first song, and then the next song and the next song.
Exactly. We had this physical thing. We had the booklet. We had the lyrics. We could, I mean, we can do this right now too. But the fact that you had this physical thing, it was really something interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It's
so
weird.
nice.
It's really weird what's happening.
Yeah, but yeah, so then I think the only way to counter that is to try to force ourselves to not skip too much, you know, like
Yeah,
yeah, like
probably.
yeah, it's like, that series Friends, everyone, knows the tune of, that have you heard of this comedy series called Friends?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So everyone knows, like, the song to that song because there was no option to skip
yeah.
the intro. But then now they're like, on Netflix you get the option to completely skip the intro and you don't even.
Actually, they even started to like, like they even stopped doing the intros. Like they're super short right now. We were just watching with my girlfriend some TV series recently, and we're like, shit, there's no intro anymore. Like they just skip that. There's just
Yeah,
some. Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, that happens when you binge watch. So I think when Netflix detects that you're watching like a few episodes in a row, it just ignores the intro and jumps straight into the episode.
Ah, okay, okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so I think it all has to do with all that, that kind of results in us losing our attention span over time. We skip a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, so that kind of sucks. But so I'm trying to go back to how it was before when, I don't
yeah, yeah,
skip
yeah,
stuff, just
yeah.
have the patience. Okay, well, thanks so much for, sharing, your thoughts on how you write and how you practice. So we're just gonna dive in and talk a bit about gear because I can't
Mhm.
not talk about, your legend because
No, of
it's such
course.
a unique piece. I mean, I think it was like 2 years ago when it was developed. Was it
Uh,
2018, more or less? I think.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, when it was complete, not
Mhm.
developed. It was complete like 2 years
Yeah.
ago. So before we dive into the details of your guitar, I wanted to ask, what do you look for in a guitar? Like tone-wise, feel-wise, it could
Mm.
be anything.
To be honest with you, I'm still like in the process of actually finding out what I'm looking for in a guitar. Because honestly, like for many, many years, I didn't care about the guitars at all. Like I was just playing something that I had or someone just gave me or someone recommended to me. But right now I just try to like dive a little bit deeper. But I think the most important thing is just the feel of the guitar, just just how it feels and what kind of things it makes you play.
Mm,
And that's why I just wanted to go for that Telecaster vibe because I just love like Fender old kind of shapes
mm.
and the new one we are like prototyping is the one that is based on a Jaguar model.
Okay.
I don't have it right now because I had to just like give it back to them just to do some more tweaks. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty much shaped in like a Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Um, I really like the single coil kind of sound. So at least I know I like that. um, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just but every time I go to the Mayonnaise factory, it's just like they're just giving me a bunch of the guitars, and I'm just testing them. I'm just saying I like this in that guitar, I like this and that guitar, and they know their job, so they're just noting it. And okay, so we know pretty much what you like, I mean, so
Okay.
it's more like that.
Okay. All right. So then they're pretty much putting those puzzle pieces together and then to form this big picture, which is your guitar for you then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I'm still in the process of like figuring out what do I like. Like for example, in the Jaguar we did a really thick neck because I at some point I thought like thick necks because I have pretty big hands and I liked how Fender guitar Telecaster models. But then I realized it's probably too thick, so we just try to make it a little bit more thin. And if it comes to pickups, like I don't know anything about pickups, so they're just trying new things and they're just showing me. I'm just seeing what works, what doesn't.
I
But
see.
it's yeah, the thing that is most important is just how the guitar looks. This is the number one thing.
Yeah, that I agree with you 100%. No ugly guitars.
Right.
It has to look cool first.
Um, Actually, I'm coming back to the tremolo bridges because
Oh,
when I
nice.
started out, I was playing the Ibanez guitars, you know, with the Floyd Rose, and I have this one that is the new Aguila. It's like kind of a soar-based guitar.
Yeah.
So it has this tremolo, which is like I'm really obsessed with it right now because I have had the tremolo for years, and it feels so good to play with it again. Yeah. So actually, I play a lot of this guitar right now. It has, you know, really cool Stratocaster-like vibe to it.
Yeah. And I think it suits your profile as well. I think it has to do with all the Telecaster look, that Strat look, that Jaguar kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
look.
yeah.
Yeah, so it
That's
suits the music you play as well.
It's kind of indie rock thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Pretty much it. That's kind of the thing.
Nice. So, well, speaking of, Mayonnaise, like how did your journey with them start? I mean, obviously because you're from Poland and then
hmm
in Gdansk, they're like quite close to where you are. So, but then how did this journey officially start?
We had a common friends for years, and I've met them. Actually, the first time I met them was at NAMM in 2014 when I was playing for Music Man, and you know, I just approached them at some point, and that was the first time we met. And since that time, we just kept in touch, and then I just decided to just join them because it made so much sense. Like they're from Poland, like they're really really great friends of mine, and I love their instruments, and it was all too beautiful to not do it. So I just tried it, and I remember the first time when I went to their factory, they had this Telecaster that I have with the same finish, but just the one guitar that they made like that. And I just saw this and I was like, I just want this guitar so bad. And they were kind enough to make it. That's how it all started, and right now we just continue that journey. See where it.
Nice. Yeah, and I do agree they do make like, every single piece they make are like, fine art pieces.
Yeah.
The attention to detail, it's
Oh yeah.
really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're probably one of the best in terms of, attention to detail. It's like there's no imperfections in terms of the shape, the look, and the feel of it. I think they usually get it spot on. And those little details, like even if you look at the Duvels, when it comes to like really sharp horns, they're like really, really sharp, and it's just done in a very perfect sort of manner.
Yeah, they're really, really into it. Every time I speak with them, I'm so amazed of like how deep you can get into the idea of making the guitars, and they're really passionate about it, and I really love that.
Yeah, nice, nice. And so then, speaking of them, like, do you mind taking us through the process when you developed your first legend? Like, what was the process like? Was it, just the typical
Mm.
testing out and then prototyping, or how was it like?
It, I remember I went to their factory and they just got me like 10 or even more different legend models, and it was pretty much as I told you before. They just gave it to me and I was just playing one, the second, the third, and I was just saying what do I like about these guitars in terms of the neck, the pickups, the sound, the feel, and they were just like making notes about it, and then we found out that we'll try to make a mahogany body because I wanted a little bit more low end, and I wanted to just, make a little bit more rich sound, I guess. Yeah, they just suggested some of your testing. The only thing I knew was that the look of the guitar, that's obvious, but yeah. Yeah, that's how it was pretty much. And then a couple of months later, it was pretty much ready.
Oh, nice, nice. So then, like, what was your thought process like when it came to the selection of woods? Was it just mainly for the looks first, and then the tone came after that, or was it tone first and then looks?
Honestly, I'm not sure if I remember correctly. I think it was like I don't think I consciously chose mahogany, but it was more like I probably played the guitar that I liked the sound of, and they told me it's mahogany. We can try to do it in this wood and see what
Mm.
happens. It's probably like that.
Ah, I
Yeah.
see, I see. So, okay, so it's just a matter of testing out, like exactly like what you said earlier, testing out those different guitars, and then after that, picking out those bits that you liked from every single one, or whichever you liked, and then putting all of that together into
Yeah.
your guitar. Then,
Yeah, pretty
okay,
much. For
nice.
example, like when we are doing this new Jaguar inspired guitar, I also just played a few of these Aguila Strat like models, and because I really like the neck of these guitars, and that's how we, implemented the next Jaguars based on the Aguila's neck. So it's always like a process of finding what I like in different guitars of theirs and trying to combine that with that special one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and I think that makes even more sense when you say, it makes a lot of sense for you guys to work together because you both are in Poland and
Yeah,
anytime you can just drop by. I mean, not anytime, but it's quite convenient for you to drop by to kind of, discuss things and test things out, as opposed to working with a company that's, so far away and you have to fly and things like that. So
yeah.
then you may
Even
not
though,
get exactly what you want at the end of the day.
yeah, even though we live exactly in the opposite sides of the
Poland.
country, it takes like 6 hours or something, but it's still it's the same country, so it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's easier,
So
way easier.
yeah, it's definitely much easier and you save a lot of time and things like that. And you probably get closer to what you actually want on the guitar because I mean, I've spoken to a few people and, some of them, they get their signature guitar, but then, there's like a few things of the guitar that, maybe the company got wrong, but then didn't have the time to, tweak and things like that.
Mm.
So I think,
Yeah, I think this is an issue of being in the situation where you have, let's say, have the endorsement with a big guitar company. It's like I would definitely like the situation that I'm in right now, where it's like it's kind of a little bit smaller company still, but the company that's still doing great and has its own identity, and the company that's doing a great instruments, but still, I can write them a mail and I can receive the mail in 5 minutes. I don't have to wait for the mail for a few days or something.
yeah, that's very true. And then it's, family run and,
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
really lovely people, man. It's
Yeah.
such a great people.
Yeah. I think they're like one of those rare brands where they're still boutique, but then they're kind of big, but then like, they're still boutique in that sense. That's why that's so much of emphasis on the quality of the
Yeah,
guitars they put out.
yeah. I think they're getting bigger and bigger. It's like, it's, I think it's almost like 100 people right now in the company, which is
Oh,
pretty big number.
that's great.
So yeah, it's
Nice,
really
nice.
happy for them.
Okay. Well, speaking of your guitar, like I did notice that, you have a very, very interesting choice when it came to the pickup. So you have the Mule from Bare Knuckles, and then you have
Mm.
the Duncan. I think it was the Telecaster.
Tele
Tel
Vintage.
yeah, Tele Vintage. Yeah. So I mean, it's not every day where you see a guitarist pickups from, two different companies. Most of the time when you see a signature guitar, it's most of the time, from one company. In
Yeah,
your case, like, I guess the priority was to get the sound that you really, really liked and you really, really wanted, regardless of the brand. Was it the case?
yeah, pretty much. When I was just testing their guitars, and I probably noticed that I like the mule in the bridge in this guitar, and I like tele vintage in the neck in this guitar, and that's how it happens. But I think in the Jagger right now we're gonna just use something different, like, yeah, in terms of like how do I like search for pickups. I was just having the call with one of the guys there, and I just told him like, man, I just need something that has a little bit more signal and it's kind of a little bit brighter. And I'll leave it to you. And he was like, okay, I'll find something. That's pretty much how it works, you know.
Oh, nice.
So I have no idea what it will be next time, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay, nice.
Curious.
So speaking of that, then, like, are you looking for this new model to be like an upgraded version of your existing Legend, or do you aim for it to be like a completely different instrument that you will use differently?
No, it will be definitely a different instrument. But it will have a few common features. For example, like this this preamp that I have that they built inside the guitar that I activate. Sorry, here it's like the preamp that I'm always using for the clean tones. It's pretty much like works like a compressor, you know. It just adds a little bit more signal and it's kind of gluing the whole signal, so it's good for cleans, for the sustain and stuff. So we have the very same feature in the Jagger, but we have a tremolo bridge in the Jagger, which is completely different because this is the X-Spirit bridge. So that's different. The wood is different, but I don't remember what kind of wood is that.
Well, as long as it's a wood that sounds good, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It has a kind of similar finish as well. It's not the same, but similar. But you know, it's just it's the prototype because this is the first guitar like that they've made. So it's really like just the beginning of the story. We're gonna upgrade it. We'll see what else we can do with it. And
nice. So, looking forward to see that when it's completed. Then.
Oh man, totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, so thanks so much for talking about your guitar. I mean, your Legend, and also what you're cooking with Mayones. And then obviously I have to ask this: what's next for you musically? Do you have any plans in the near future?
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna continue make music, and I just had this stupid thought that I wanna have like a last long play albums because still when I'm still in my 20s, and then I'll just retire. No, maybe I won't retire, but I feel like I really wanna make another album sooner or later. And right now I'm just in the process of like really slowly kind of sketching the new things, and hopefully when the things get back to normal, maybe I'll be able to finally play some shows, because I was supposed to do that this year and I was like so pumped about it, but of course like people have bigger problems than that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do more of these and just continue to write music, and I'm good. I'm happy.
Okay, well, looking forward to that new album then. Hopefully your new guitar will be ready by then as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's pretty much ready. It was ready, but I just gave it back to them to do some more tweaks about it, and yeah, I'll have it back, I think, this month even, so that's cool.
Oh, awesome. Nice. Okay, well, so this brings us to the very last part of this our session here today. So do you have any advice for anyone who's aspiring to be a musician like yourself? Or another way of looking at it is, if little Jakub came to you now, what would you say? What would you say to him?
Probably just cherish that world that you've created, and cherish that love to the music, and don't try to tell anybody that it's otherwise. Just, I don't know, it's but in the same time try not having but try to love the process of it instead of waiting for it. I guess it's, I don't know, it's a tough question. Yeah, you just try to like love the process of it, and just be passionate about the process and not the end result of it, because the end result never comes actually. So yeah, reward is just doing it, I guess.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's very, that's a priceless piece of advice for whoever gets to listen to this episode here. So thank you so much for sharing that, and I'm sure that a lot of people would appreciate you spending the time doing this today as well when this episode is being will be launched. So once again, thank you so much for
Thank you, man.
spending time from your day to do this. I really appreciate it, and let's stay in touch, and looking forward to see all that new stuff and your new guitar as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing this, man, and talk next time. Have a
All
great day.
right, stay safe. Thank you.